This week, J.D. Vance gave a speech in Munich, and people in Britain either booed or cheered. He told us that we were failing. He told us that we turned our back on our democratic principles, on our freedom of speech and freedom of thought and freedom of religion. Well, if this is a shock to you, then you're watching the BBC. Because the truth is, his story about the letters going around in Scotland telling people not to pray in their home probably were a hoax. But people have been arrested for praying. Now, abortion is legal. There is a legal right, there's a legal right to provide it, there's a legal right to receive it. If you don't like that, you campaign against it. You should not be stopping people outside abortion clinics, harassing them, abusing them, being violent, being threatening. But frankly, that's not really happening, is it? What's happening is people have given advice and prayed and been inconvenient. And I can see why some people wouldn't like that. And I don't have a problem with there being a ban on protest or prayer near to an abortion clinic. I can see why the government may well feel this necessary, and I don't think that's restricting religion. However, when the clinic is closed and it's a weekend and there's no one around, you're not holding a banner, you're not waving anything, you're not shouting anything, you're not harassing, threatening or embarrassing anyone, but you're standing. You could be standing waiting for a bus, couldn't you? But no, I think you're praying. So within minutes the police turn up and ask them what they're thinking and what they're doing. Are they praying silently in their head where no one can hear them? And as soon as the answer comes back yes, they're dragged away. Well, I actually watched the video of that lady and I thought that she was setting them up. She knew that they would martyr her. She knew that they would arrest her for praying in her head in the street. And she knew that because that's the way the police do it. They choose which laws to enforce and they enforce them very thoroughly. But it used to be a time, pick any date in the last 1,000 years, where to commit a crime you had to cause a real harm to a real person. But we're generally chipping away at this, and we're creating rules where somebody who's caused no harm to any real person is criminalised. And she goes to court and it gets thrown out, and it was all a monumental waste of time and money. But they limited her freedom of religion. And she knew they would do it. If she'd been wearing a hijab, would they have asked her if she was praying? Would they have asked her anything about that? Or would they have walked on by and said nothing? They chose it because Christians are fair game. They chose her because they knew that she would be. I think we should be very worried if in this country we're limiting people's ability to think or worship or believe. If somebody isn't harming someone else, why are we rushing in with the police to drag people away when all they're doing is praying in their mind? And you don't even know they're praying. You have to go and ask them to make sure that they confess to this terrible sin. Or freedom of speech. How many people have been sent to prison for offences last summer where there was no violence, no threat? That man who killed himself. So he listed a bunch of organisations that he said were corrupt. But it's like a tick list, most of them. I think it's fair game to believe that quite a lot of those may be. They may be, they may not be, but it's not wrong to believe. It's not immoral or illegal to believe that they are. It's your point of view. It's freedom of thought. Well, people squirmed and people didn't like it, and there was much muttering by the intelligentsia. But the truth is, J.D. Vance was a friend. He told us what we needed to be told. He told the ruling class what many people in this country already believe and know. And they might not like it, but a friend is a person who tells you when he thinks there's something you can do better. And a friend is someone who has a dialogue with you, not just says, oh, judged, done, off. But the truth is, behind all of this, J.D. Vance did cut through, because the AfD, who 25% of Germans vote for, have suddenly been involved in discussions, whereas they've been excluded in much as possible to avoid that democratic vote being recognised. Well, I know that people say that the AfD are Nazi, but frankly, the word far right has been thrown around so liberally, so insanely, and so poorly defined that it doesn't really have a meaning anymore. To people like the Home Office, the police, and the Labour Party, far right is anyone who didn't vote Labour. That's not what Nazi means. And it's about time that we listen to J.D. Vance and tell him where we think he's wrong. But I think he had a lot of good points.